This week on This is Gravel, we have Pony Express, Babes on Bike Donations, Bleeding Kansas, Cannonball 550, some Q&As, and apparently Kansas has woodchucks. Hey, and welcome to This is Gravel. I am Bobby Thompson. With me, as always, is
Neil Taylor.
Neil, what's been going on in your world? Actually, I should say what's coming up in your world.
Yeah, coming up in our world, Kansas Cannonball 550. Getting ready.
I love that hat, by the way. Sorry.
I do too. Speaking of things coming up, registration for Land Run coming
up
this Saturday.
Woo!
Don't forget about that. But no, Cannonball 550 here in Kansas, multi-day event that myself and producer Matt, along with who knows how many other people, are going to head out on. And it's going to be an adventure, and I'm looking forward to it. This is my first kind of dipping of my toes into a multi-day event, but I've wanted to do these for years.
Yeah.
And I think, honestly, this is where I see myself doing a lot more stuff in the future, doing multi-day events versus just going out there and killing myself for 6, 7, 8 hours. So we'll see.
The route looks... It can't be anything but absolutely gorgeous out there.
Yeah, it's going to be beautiful. There's a lot of different terrains.
Yeah.
If you've been here in the past in Dirty Kansas, not just the past few years, but even further back, we go out towards Cassidy. But then we're going to head even further west and kind of get into a sandy terrain, which is going to be totally different than what we're accustomed to riding here in the Flint Hills. But then you get up also in the stuff that we rode this past year in Dirty Kansas, up in the Wabaunsee County area. And so this is going to throw a lot of different things at us. But I think myself and Matt are looking forward to it. Matt, maybe not so much. We'll see. But I'm definitely excited about getting to do that. A lot of other good things going on, too. We got a huge donation from Babes on Bikes, a local group.
Yeah.
They did an event that raised some money for our high school kids. That was awesome. This past weekend, I worked with Boy Scouts and got to teach the Boy Scouts about cycling. So a lot of fun things going on, Bobby. What have you been up to, man?
Let's see. Well, on the board over there, it says Pony Express. So we're going to go with Pony Express. Yeah, I got to go up to... So one event that I honestly have been wanting to go to for... It sounds silly, but time goes so fast. For about 4 years now, I've been wanting to go to the Pony Express, but I always went out to Rebecca's Private Idaho, and then last year we had a vacation during the time. Anyway, all these things. So I finally got up to Pony Express Gravel Dash in Marysville, Kansas, and I absolutely loved the event. Small town, definitely a small town vibe, but it had two main ingredients. One, it had the coffee shop. And two, it had a bar. So other than that, it was perfect. It was 120 miles, and I will say that other than riding the Rift in Iceland for 120 miles, it was absolutely the roughest 120 miles I have ever ridden, bar none. And that's with all respect and love for Ryan Dudley and Maisie's, which can beat you to crap. Also.
Oh, absolutely.
But this one was, the roads up there are so incredibly washed out, and not in the way that we normally expect washouts where you're riding down deep ruts. They're washed out perpendicular on downhill slopes. So you'll be riding downhill, and if you don't have your hands downhill, if you don't have your hands on the bars, all of a sudden you have consecutive 6-inch drops that are washouts, not a drop, a washout. So your bike gets beat to death, your body gets beat. Oh, it was so much fun. Absolutely loved it. And then you came up on some roads, and it was like someone had taken a tiller or a disc. They had just disked the road. I mean, it's absolutely insane, and there's no shoulder to ride on, so you're riding through just torn up dirt. I mean, it was, and then you throw on top of that, you have ditch to ditch sand,
yes.
2 to 3 inch deep sand. that if you're not getting at a good speed, you're going to stop. And if you are at a good speed, you almost feel like you're sledding or skiing a little bit going downhill. I had a blast.
Yeah, the last time I was up there, I've only been able to make it up there once too. You talk about you always want to go up, but things just fly by. I was up there in 2015, and you talk about that sand. I was doing the 70-mile, the shorter course that year, and I hadn't seen anyone in front of me since the first little checkpoint about 30 miles in. And so I was kind of starting to think I'm out there by myself or I'm off course, one of the two. And a farmer comes out and he cheers me on. He's like, "Hey, you're the first guy I've seen." I'm like, "Yeah, right. There's no way." Well, sure enough, there wasn't anyway, because as soon as we got to the 3-inch deep sand, I found 2 tracks ahead of me that were going through the sand. One that reassured me I was on course, because at that time I was doing cue sheets. But 2, it let me know there's 2 folks still ahead of me out there that I have to chase down, and I was not able to chase them down, by the way. But had a good time up there when I was able to go up, and I definitely at some point want to get back up there.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely worth going to. I mean, they have a nice little city campground. That'd be nice to take the family up to, hitch the RV up and go up there for the weekend. They actually have turned it in this year. They turned it into more or less a Marysville days, not officially days, but, festival atmosphere that day. It was a blast. Would love to go back there again. So
awesome. So when you guys see this little card here on the table, that means one thing usually, right? It's time for some Q&A, Bobby. You ready?
I'm ready, which is our favorite thing.
Awesome. All right. We got 4 questions today. We'll see how
you should be like
difficult these ones are. Rapid fire. All right.
You need to do that sometime.
Have you tried packing a burrito in your top tube bag for long rides or races?
Okay. I have not put a burrito in my top tube bag. I have put a burrito inside a sandwich bag and tucked it away in my back pocket. I will tell you, I did not eat it. Apparently, it gets really hot back there.
Yeah.
And flour tortillas, when they get really hot, they get very mushy and squishy and not good. So no, I have not put one in my top tube bag, though. What about you?
No, I rarely ever pack much food as it is. And so when I have packed food, it seems like every time I do, it gets squished or destroyed at some point along the way. Because like you, I've thrown it in jersey pockets.
Yeah.
And then I go and sit down and lay down on the ground and then go back to grab, whatever I had back there. And I've got a peanut butter and jelly sandwich inside of my jersey pocket that I'm having to scrape out.
Can I ask who sent this question? No, I can't ask. Was it Micah? It was Micah, wasn't it? Yeah. Okay, Micah, let me ask you this. Have you ever put a frozen burrito in your back pocket? That's a tip for you. Anything frozen you put in your back and you warm that thing up. What are you doing putting a burrito in your top tube? I mean, that's just, how big's a top tube? That's just weird.
I'm going to give it a try.
You going to give it a try? We'll give it a try, Branka. Okay.
Give it a try.
All right, number 2.
Your turn.
What's the weirdest thing you've ever put in your bag? Food-wise.
Really, nothing too weird, man. I'm not a strange
Nothing
kind of
too weird?
Nah, maybe some donuts. I mean, things of that nature. Yeah, I love my donuts.
Okay. All right, number 2. That's not very weird. How does gravel cycling compare? What's the weirdest thing you all have ever put in your top tube bag? Send us what the weirdest piece of food you've ever carried on the bike. I'm curious. All right, number 2. How does gravel cycling compare to road cycling? Do you do any road cycling?
When I'm getting to the gravel. So I guess, there are those 1 or 2 mile stretches that I'm a road cyclist, but I don't have a whole lot of experience with road cycling personally. A little bit with mountain biking, obviously a lot with gravel. I do not get on the roads very much. My guess is the difference is that the roads are usually smoother depending on where your roads are. From what I can gather, I go faster on pavement than I do on gravel. But other than that, I couldn't tell you a whole lot about the comparisons. Bobby, maybe you got more experience with road cycling.
I would say whoever sent this question has not visited Emporia, Kansas. Because here in Emporia, Kansas, we don't have roads. Well, we have roads. We have gravel roads. Yeah. We don't have a lot of pavement. I can say that, there are plenty of differences. You're asked to compare the two, and there's so many different types of gravel roads, dirt roads, back roads, and there's so many different types of paved roads that the comparison, you have to simplify down to things like there's more variations in gravel riding than there would be in road cycling. Road cycling, if you're building a road, you're more tend to you're going to tend to make that 4% grade go longer. You're not going to be going up and down, up and down, up and down. So you tend to get into a rhythm a little bit more with road cycling, which is why a lot of road cyclists still prefer a 2x on their drivetrain, because you can hit those little, if you're really big into your cadences and you're going to be in that cadence and you're going to be on that gear for the next 30 minutes, then you really do care about the little tiny variations in shifting. But for gravel, there's so many variables. You're constantly changing types of gravel within the same ride. You might be riding 1/2-inch gravel. You might be riding 1-inch thick gravel. You might be doing dirt road ruts. So it's a little bit like mountain biking on an open gravel road, which is why I like it over mountain biking. Because mountain biking, I have no focus. I can't focus on anything, which is why this show is shorter this year. But for gravel, I can get a little bit lost and not kill myself against a tree. I might go into a rut and wreck if I'm not careful, but yeah, you can zone out a little bit more on gravel than mountain biking. But as far as road cycling, the one comparison we don't have, Neil, is road cycling would be a lot more enjoyable if we had more variations within our roads. Our roads are typically, when you say Kansas is flat, our paved roads are pretty flat because they're going from point A to point B, small town to small town, and then you want to get there quickly. Whereas driving through the mountains, or driving through Arkansas, or driving through down by Lake of the Ozarks, those paved roads might be an absolute blast to ride. So, does that answer that well enough?
I'd say so.
Okay.
All right. What race wasn't on your radar in 2019 that is on your 2020 watch list?
Yeah, I like that this says watch list. I want to do Rock Cobbler. Out in California. It looks unique. I've never ridden in California. I've only visited California one time. Apparently it's warmer at times in California than it is here. It depends on where you go, right? Yeah. But I want to do Rock Cobbler. I think it's in like February, and I think it's definitely warmer than here in February. Can I make that assumption? But yeah, Rock Cobbler. There's so many. Coast to coast. I'd love to go up and do coast to coast. That'd be a blast.
I say coast to coast been on my radar for a few years now,
Yeah.
and I'd love to do it because, one, I have family that lives right up there, so I have places to stay, and two, it's gorgeous up there. I mean,
Yeah.
It really is. It's a different area to ride through than what we have down here. When you get out, you're exposed in the Flint Hills, and on a hot, nasty day, that can be really rough. Whereas up there, I mean, you're going to be doing a lot of riding through the trees, and it is gorgeous. I love that area.
And the time of year would be gorgeous up there.
Mm-hmm.
Mississippi Gravel Series. Our friends Jason and Wendy Shearer. I'd love to get down there and visit them down there. Spinistry down in Texas. I go down to one event. He has events throughout the whole year. I'd love to go down and do more of those. There's just so many rides to go do. The Chino Gravel Grind out in Arizona.
Yeah.
Love to go do that. So.
Beginning of May, that's one I think that would be fun to go do too.
Yeah.
I mean, just a different area, different place, different scenery. Nothing against the Midwest because we know Midwest is the best. But, there's a lot of other places definitely I'd love to see. The Rift that you did this last year.
Rift was
beautiful. Gosh, all those pictures and everything. Again, just looking at that, I would love to be able to do that.
Yeah. The Dirty Boar, Denmark. We'd love to go up and do Dirty Boar. I mean, there's so many. So, all right. Number 4. My turn to read to you?
Your turn.
What is your favorite stretch of gravel in Kansas?
Oh, man. There's a couple that, as I saw this question, that definitely went through my head.
Mm-hmm.
The first one, obviously, is that 4-mile stretch or so out to Towers that's been on Dirty Kansas in the past. When you, about mile 16 or so, you take a left and you just go on this like stair-stepping stretch that goes out to a couple radio towers that are right next to I-35. It's just, you go up. There's some downs, but you just kind of gradually climb the whole way. That's there. And then I would say Divide Road up in Wabunsee County, up in Dudley's Country. I remember the first time I rode that. It made me cry, yet at the same time, I was just like, can I do it again? Because it's just awesome. And anytime I go up there, I make sure that Divide Road's part of what I ride.
Nice.
Yeah.
My turn?
Yeah.
Okay. As far as suffering, which is fun, right? We otherwise
that's why we do this.
Right. That's why we do this. I will always love Greenwood County. You have Texaco Hill, and not just the hill, but the lead up going west, turning south, and then the false flat going up, and then you got the hill at the top. I remember when I first started riding gravel, there's that. As you're making the climb, going west, and you start to turn the corner, there's that tree right there. And there have been so many DK rides where that tree has 6 or 7 cyclists gasping for air, sitting in the shade on that climb up there. And the climb's not huge, but it's just, you always have a headwind going up that long climb. And it's
pretty
just
lengthy.
It's a lengthy climb to get there. But once you get to the top of there, you're on top of the world. You can see the entire Flint Hills. And then you take a right, you head back west, and it's Madison Road that goes along. I think it's called Madison Road. It goes west for about 3 or 4 miles. You take another right, you go half a mile, and then you get on Sharps Creek Road, and you go up to Bizarre, Kansas. And that stretch there, if you want to experience the Flint Hills, that stretch there is just absolutely mind-boggling. It's beautiful. The wind, there is nothing to stop the wind. So the wind is insane up there. And it's all the 1 to 2 inch slick, sometimes hard, sometimes sharp, but all of that flint rock that you hear about up there is, it's just gorgeous. That's my favorite long stretch. There's a route that DK or Gravel City put out. I can't remember the name of it right now. It's like 86 miles. And it starts from Emporia, Kansas. It goes along that route. And a little bit of that route. You get Madison Road and you get Sharps Creek, comes back up Bizarre, Cotman Falls, and comes back. And it's on their website. And I love that route.
Yeah,
so.
Fun area to ride into.
Yeah.
Definitely been up there a bunch and love that.
Yeah.
Well, that's our questions, Bobby, for the day. But I know you got something coming up this weekend, if I'm not mistaken.
I do, but before we get to that, let's get in to see what you guys have been doing out there.
Hey, Bobby and Neil, absolutely my favorite time of the show are social media photos from this week on Facebook. First up, we've got this photo of Mary out riding in Idaho on the route of the Hiawatha recently. Said, just amazingly beautiful, she says. Absolutely looks awesome, Mary. Michael Robertson sent in this photo riding in Fulton County, Illinois. Nice solo 50-mile morning. Looks awesome, Michael. Naomi was out at the Keystone Gravel in Pennsylvania. All the 80 miles and 9,000-ish feet of climbing to the top of the hills and back. 4.5 times. Catherine was out this past week on a fun, long gravel ride in the Iowa River Greenbelt. Awesome, Catherine. Patrick was at the Green Circle Trail in Stevens Point, Wisconsin. Alan White was out riding in Logan County, Oklahoma. Derek Blaylock got in 40 miles of riding to the Lewisburg Cider Mill and back. Corey was out on wet Iowa roads, 117 miles and almost 11,000 feet of gain in northeast Iowa. Paul Brasby's out on the gravel roads around Potter's Pasture near Brady, Nebraska. And Travis sends in this photo riding mid-Missouri gravel. Thank you to everybody that submitted photos using the hashtag ThisIsGravel and on our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages. Back to you guys.
Hey, thanks for all your ride pictures. Now on to your question.
Okay, Bobby. So, last year, if I'm not mistaken, you actually took a top spot on a podium at a race, and you're going to defend this title this weekend, correct?
Yeah. So last year I did win the inaugural Bleeding Kansas, and I'm actually I'm proud of that. I don't like to say much about it because it's just a bike ride, but I worked hard that day. I worked hard last year, and that day just things worked out, and it was a type of race that had 8 timed segments, and we had a blast just goofing off in between the segments. We still finished 109 miles in just over 8 hours. So we still rolled at 14, 15 miles an hour. But we took the time to take pictures here and there. We climbed hills, lightly, easily. But when the sections came up, you're riding along and you see a sign that says, a series of signs. Get ready, get set. And then there's actually a timing mat. You roll across the timing mat, and there's a timing mat for the finish. So it's not like a Strava section where you think, I think it's this fence post. You know it's coming up.
Yeah.
So the 3 friends that I rolled with, Corey Smith and Ryan Balkenhall. And first I want to say, Corey Smith was on a fat bike. Ryan Balkenhall was on his Cutthroat. If either of those two had been on a drop bar bike like me, they would have won the event. So I'll give major props to those 2 very strong riders in Emporia, Kansas. But they weren't. And luckily I was on skinny tires, and I think that really helped me out. But yeah, you see it coming up, and we'd get ready. We'd space ourselves out because most of the segments involve a very, very sharp angle downhill first, and with a curve to it. And so if you're not careful, it's not a straight downhill. If you're not careful and you don't hit that just right, there were 3 times where I fishtailed just a little bit coming out as I'm squeezing my brakes trying to hit it. So this year, I will know that I'm not going to gain any time going downhill before that curve. If anything, if I ride it a little bit slower, I'm probably going to gain time on the guy behind me that makes my mistake. It's the after that you go down. You have like a mile or so after that where you kind of coast, and you got to still, that's all timed. So that's where you're really going to hit it hard. And I can't wait to get back up there. We have more Emporians coming up there, which I'm always proud when Emporia gets out and goes to these rides. But I'm also proud of anybody who's going up for the first time. I know Leland Danes is going back up. He's going to ride the 50. I'm glad to see Leland back out going into an event. And it's going to be a blast. So
Awesome.
It's neat because you get to socialize. Instead of, a lot of times when I get into a ride, whether it's 50 miles or 100 miles, I enjoy the ride, but I want to get done with the ride so I can socialize afterwards with friends, right? Yeah. Without the stress of getting ready for the ride. The ride's over, you've done your work, now you can socialize. Well, this you get to socialize during the ride. And I really like that aspect. So.
And it's a one, too, I would say, where everybody kind of has to stay around afterwards, too. You have to stay around and socialize after, too, because who knows who's going to win this thing.
So the award ceremony, is so it starts at like 8 a.m., and the award ceremony is at 6 p.m. So if you do the math, that's 10 hours to do 109 miles. A lot of people would knock that thing out in 6 hours and pictures, leave, and go home. The very last person across the finish line could be the winner. So you have to stay until everybody finishes that event if you want to see who the winner is. If you think you have any chance. And I will tell you this, I didn't think I had any chance last year. We joked about it during the ride. What if? And when we rolled in, we didn't think we'd win anything when we rolled in because you have no clue.
Yeah.
It was an hour afterwards when Aaron came up and tapped me on my shoulder and said, "Don't leave if you win this thing." He just walks off with this look on his face. But I joke. But yeah, it was like, what the heck are you going to do? If you're winning this thing, but anybody can win it. Anybody has a shot because the downhills, a lot of the segments are downhill. So I'll just say that it was a blast. It was a good event. So
cool. Very, very fun. Sounds like a good time. Like I say, a lot of folks are going to be up there this coming weekend, so hope everyone's enjoying that, and everyone's enjoying a lot of other races I know going on in Oklahoma and some other places too. Yeah. So if you're riding out there, make sure, again, you're sending us pictures, tagging them with This Is Gravel, because we do love seeing what you're all doing.
One last thing. Did I maybe hear a rumor that there might be some info coming out next week on you and producer Matt's Cannonball prelude?
Yeah, once Matt gets all of his stuff on his bike, we might have a little bit of a conversation about what all we're getting ready to do and what we're bringing with us for the Cannonball coming up here on September 27th.
I want to just real quick, these guys are awesome for trying. This is 550 miles. And I don't think any of them have done anything anywhere close to this amount of mileage. And to get on the bike and try to do this over consecutive days, it's a big deal. So I'm excited for you guys. Good luck. And I can't wait to see all the specials coming up.
Yep, can't wait.
All right. We'll talk to you later.